Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Sorry it took so long for me to finally cover the next character. To put it simply, I forgot. Today, we are continuing the character series by covering Blue. To tell you the truth, a good portion of my brain power is simply dedicated to, well, Pretty Man. So, I barely put anything into Blue until I realized that I had to write this script. Except for what I put into a characterization spreadsheet I'm still working on in regards to gym leaders and such. As usual, I'll be doing my typical format because I am not very smart. I will be making this disclaimer every video. The character videos tend to touch on very serious topics. This is your first and only warning for the video. There's way too many topics in this AU alone for me to mention without making it an hour long, so I'll keep it Blue specific. If you are at all sensitive to mentions of parental death, suicide, attempted suicide, bullying, and trauma related to school, I ask that you look at my Splatoon series instead. It may be more your type of content. But if you do want the trigger warnings for redone, my AO3 is always in the description, and I'll give you the basics. Also, I apologize for basically tracing poses. At the time these art pieces were made, I lacked confidence in my anatomy. It'll be like this until Hilbert's video, at the earliest. I'm still teaching myself, and using references is the best way to learn. Let's just get on with it before I start rambling more. Since Professor Oak, or Orchid, basically said that Red and Blue had been rivals since they were babies, I gave Blue the same birth year as Red, only on November 11th. So Red is a few months older than he is. Not by much. It's based on the Pokemon manga. I won't be changing everyone's names, but I did learn that Blue's last name in Japanese is Okido, which can roughly translate to Orchid. I think in the beginning it was lost in translation and it just stuck. We all know how much America censored Japanese games in the 90s, which I lampshade in the second chapter I'm working on, where the old man likes to drink coffee liqueur, just referencing the fact that he's drunk in Japan and just tired in America. Basically, the only real change is to the last name, meaning Oak is now Orchid. And his ethnicity is American, Japanese, Irish, Scottish. It'll make more sense in a little bit, I promise. His mother's side is American and Japanese, and his dad's side is both Scottish Japanese and Irish Japanese. Especially his grandparents, Samuel Orchid and Agatha Baird. Certainly more complex lineage than Red's, but still. Since Blue is smarter than Hop and less creepy than Nemona, he chose Blastoise as a starter instead of Venusaur. For comedic effect, and because the Mother series completely broke his humor, he decided to name his starter Frog, after a character from Chrono Trigger. He knows damn well that Blastoise is a turtle, not a frog. He's technically gayer than Red, being polysexual. He's romantically and sexually attracted to men, women, and non-binary people only. I think that's a difference. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I also made him a closeted gender fluid. Though his closet is completely made of glass, everyone knows about it. They don't talk to him about it because he gets very, very insecure whenever people discuss it. Prefers he/him pronouns, though. He is currently married to Yellow and has a daughter named Midori. If you think about their naming conventions, I think you can figure out why I gave her that name. Anyway. In keeping with the whole, they have to be somewhat opposite, Red is definitely more outgoing than Red is. More willing to walk up to people and just strike up a conversation. Unless he's talking to someone he really admires, then he's just a fucking mess. His speech patterns are very casual, even when he's around his superiors. Going on Japanese language logic, he's the type of guy to say un to his superiors instead of hi or tabetai when hungry. He's gotten in trouble once or twice for it, but he thinks formal Japanese sounds too stuffy. It could also be laziness on his part because there's like 3 forms of Japanese people regularly use, and he can only really be bothered to use 1 or 2 of them. 2 if they're lucky. This is the same guy who memorized American Sign Language to communicate with Red when one of them is nonverbal, so it's very possible he's just selectively lazy. He also has a habit of interjecting French words into his sentences, sometimes resulting in very weird sounding sentences. Sometimes he can come off as a dick due to his speech patterns and tendency to change the subject to himself. Otherwise, social interaction comes easily to him. Red's opposite, basically. That's kind of what you would expect from a rival, though. Hop. To put this in the bluntest way possible, his mother is dead. Her name was Arya Flowers and was Misty's sister. True to the anime, she was the older sister. The difference is that Arya never became a gym leader and became an independent musical artist, performing around Kanto and Johto until she met Blue's father. Arya died when Blue was only 5 when having Viole, goes by Gary, as the Pokemon anime is a live-action TV show and that is the character he plays. Blue has 2 siblings and is the middle child, the eldest being Daisy. Fun fact, the idea of him being the middle child was inspired by the cutting room floor, which I will link in the description. The eldest is Daisy, by the way. While she was alive, she taught Blue the basics for playing the piano and fostered a love of music in the boy. So yeah, he was a bit of a mama's boy. His father, Hideo Orchid, passed away not long after Arya died in childbirth. He wasn't a very attentive parent, working for the League at the time, so Blue wasn't particularly close to him. What time they did spend together between work, Hideo taught Blue about Pokemon and which ones were particularly strong. I mean, Blue probably didn't listen because he was like 3 years old, but it was time spent together at least. Unfortunately, a few months after Arya's passing, Hideo would end his own life by asphyxiation. Blue doesn't recall anything since his brain decided to repress the memories. After the parents died, Professor Orchid would have custody of Blue and his siblings. Samuel took Blue's schooling very seriously and was relentless when trying to get the kid into a good trainer school. That wouldn't happen until he was 11. Blue doesn't like discussing his family, though. Aside from his brother, Viole, they're actually pretty close. Blue has the biggest hyperfixation on music. He just loves it to bits. It's a hobby of his, though. He does it in his spare time, obviously. He also enjoys more RPG-style video games, bonus points if it's mother or mother-inspired, like Yume Nikki or Undertale. He has absolutely played .flow. On top of this, he is a Tumblrina. He is very active on Tumblr, and has been to several conventions in his spare time. He's even had the misfortune of going to DashCon and even sat in the ball pit for an hour. He's an avid Pokemon battler, greeting most challenges with some level of enthusiasm and will study every battle he and the others participate in just to get a smidgen of information. He strives to do his absolute best whenever he battles a new opponent or starts a new project. Unlike Red, Blue isn't as highly educated. He has a bachelor's degree as a music major, but that's about it. Blue simply cares more about his job as a gym leader than school. He is ESTPA and is on the Scorpio-Sagittarius cusp. Yes, I include cusps. If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. His problems are, he's afraid of heights. Not the same as fear of flying. I would know. I have fear of heights. I'm not afraid of flying. Sometimes he just starts shit for his music. He can also be a bit vain at times. Sometimes he lets his pride and arrogance impede his critical thinking and he has hurt people to achieve a given goal. These problems don't always cloud his judgment, but he does frequently overexert himself and can go into something way over his head. One of his biggest flaws, in my opinion, though, is, well, he can be very, very obsessive over his loved ones. Like, to the point where it will actively hurt him or other people. It's obviously not very healthy. longest he was champion, not counting the battle time between his battle against Red for the title, it was 5 minutes before he was defeated and eventually given the role of gym leader. This was after Giovanni was arrested and shanked in prison after blatantly admitting to crimes against children. After that, there wasn't much of note aside from adventures he went on to get stronger or for tournaments. He does keep the gym open, but that's because he has a substitute gym trainer in his place. Basically, he's a Pokemon trainer by trade, and he spends his time helping teach beginner trainers while making music on the side. Like his mother. It's a bit shorter this time. Before I dive into this section, I would like to make it clear that this script was written before I learned more about Terratyping. So I'm still going back and forth between whether humans should have Terratypes like Pokemon or not. You let me know in the comments if that's a good idea or not. Anyway, Blue is a ghost type. I actually had a lot of difficulty figuring out what his typing would even be, or at least manifest as, above, I see dead people. I mean, he sees dead people too, but his secondary ability was hard to figure out. So I thought about Red's ability. That ability is more for support and agility. So Blue's should be more defensive, tanky. Basically like how their starters work, where Charizard is very agile and is for attack. Blastoise is more for support and defense. Basically, Blue has Sand's powers, being able to manipulate bones for his own purposes. Or at least Sand's combined with Chop Chop. Yes, I'm a Skylanders nerd. Aside from that, if he is hit hard enough, he has Ghost Physiology, allowing him to quickly reach people or possess potentially useful objects. He only uses that part to mess with people. He just can't use bones in the he can't just use bones in the ground though. He can also manipulate the bones of other people and has a technique he calls "Your skeleton is ready to hatch," where he removes someone's skeleton from their body and uses their bones as a mook or a weapon. The victim usually doesn't survive this process. This poor man. He has PTSD, general anxiety disorder, panic disorder, occasional manic episodes, dysgraphia, which means he can't write good. He's very prone to nightmares, and most importantly, he sees dead people. Blue frequently picks at his hair and skin when nervous. Objects such as ropes, from his dad, and his old school that he, Red, and Yellow used to go to before they either moved schools after the incident or Red transferred. He can be seen being very clingy when it comes to the people in his life. He just doesn't want to lose anyone else, so sometimes he can be clingy or have symptoms of separation anxiety. And that's the video. I deeply apologize if today's topic was a bit heavy, or at least heavier than normal. Hopefully the next video is more lighthearted. I'll see you later.